This eave is the reason your attic becomes an oven. Not the insulation. Not the ridge. Not the ventilation company that charged you $800 3 summers ago. This one strip of trim. The thermometer inside that attic right now reads 148 degrees, and the ceiling below it, your bedroom ceiling, is holding heat at 11 o'clock at night that no fan on earth can pull out fast enough. There is no missing component here. No upgrade needed. No contractor required. The system your house already has is being choked by $30 worth of misunderstanding. Let me show you exactly where. Most people who have hot attics blame the wrong thing first. They think more insulation. They think bigger ridge vent. They think whole house fan. And every single one of those ideas can be right, in the wrong order. Because before any of them work, before a single one of them moves air the way they're supposed to, something else has to be open. Something low. Something quiet. Something that looks, from the outside, like decoration. The soffit is the underside of your roof's overhang, that horizontal strip running along the eave, right where the roof extends past the wall. In most residential construction, it was designed with small perforated panels. Mesh, slots, holes. Those holes are not decorative. They are the lungs of your attic. They are where cool air enters at the bottom of the roof cavity, rises through the rafter bays, and exits at the ridge. That movement, intake low, exhaust high, is called the stack effect. And it is one of the most reliable, zero-cost cooling mechanisms available to any building in the temperate world. It requires no electricity, no moving parts, no maintenance beyond keeping those two openings clear. Intake low, exhaust high. That is the whole system. Now here is where the invisible error enters. At some point in the life of almost every house, someone sealed the soffit. Not intentionally, not maliciously. But the effect is the same. It happens 3 ways, and almost nobody who does it realizes what they've just done. The first way, a previous owner insulates the attic floor and pushes the bats all the way to the eave. The insulation compresses against the roof decking. It fills the rafter bay from top to bottom, and just like that, the air pathway disappears. The air can't enter the soffit anymore, because there's nowhere for it to go once it gets past the mesh. The second way, a contractor paints the soffit. Exterior refresh, looks great, and the paint fills the small perforations in the panels. Each coat is only 2 to 4 mils thick, but over 3 or 4 painting cycles, the holes close. The mesh is gone. The panel looks perfect from the ground and passes 0 air. The third way, someone adds decorative trim or replaces the original vented soffit panels with solid ones. Happens all the time during renovations. It looks cleaner. Nobody on the crew is thinking about attic airflow, and the solid panel goes up where the perforated one used to be. Any of these 3 produces the same result. The ridge vent at the top of your roof, the one that's supposed to exhaust hot air, now has nothing to pull from. There's no intake pressure, no stack effect, no movement. The hot air that enters your attic through the roof decking on a July afternoon has nowhere to go. It accumulates. It sits. It radiates back down through your ceiling at 8, 9, 10 o'clock at night into the rooms where you sleep. Think about a chimney for a moment. You light a fire at the bottom. The hot air rises. It escapes at the top, and as it exits, It pulls fresh air in through the bottom of the firebox. That pull, that movement, is not about the fire being hot enough. It's about the opening at the bottom being clear. Block the firebox intake and the fire dies, or it smokes back into the room. Your attic works by exactly the same principle. The ridge is the chimney top. The soffit is the firebox intake. Block the soffit and the ridge vent becomes decorative. Hot air presses against the roof decking with nowhere to go. The pressure builds. The temperature climbs. 130, 140, 150 degrees Fahrenheit. In the space directly above where you sleep. Before you add force, read the flow. So how do you know if your soffit is blocked? You don't need to go up into the attic first. You can diagnose this from below. Stand outside your house on a clear afternoon and look at the eave from below. Look at the soffit panels. Are they perforated? Do you see a mesh or a row of small holes? Or does the surface look painted, solid, or smooth? If you're not sure from the ground, go to the attic on a clear day. Turn off all the lights. Let your eyes adjust. Look toward the eave. If you can see thin strips of daylight coming through at the roof's edge, the soffit intake is open. If it is completely dark at the eave, if no light penetrates, the intake is blocked. That test takes 2 minutes. It will tell you more than a thermal gun, because it shows you not just the symptom, but the exact location of the cause. Now, even if your soffit panels are technically open, there is still a second way the system fails. And this is the detail that separates a working attic from a hot one. It's called a baffle. A baffle, Eave, sometimes called a rafter vent or an eave vent, is a simple cardboard or rigid foam channel that gets installed between the roof decking and the insulation in each rafter bay. Its entire job is to hold open a clear corridor of air. Without a baffle, even a properly vented soffit can be blocked. Here's why. When you lay insulation across the attic floor, it gets thicker as it approaches the eave. At the point where the rafter meets the exterior wall, the very place where the soffit air enters, the insulation wants to fill that space, and if it fills it, the air entering through the soffit mesh has nowhere to go. It hits the insulation immediately. The pathway is 5 inches long and completely stuffed. A baffle pushes the insulation back. It holds the channel open all the way from the soffit mesh to the open attic space above. Without it, soffit open, system blocked. With it, soffit open, system breathing. The baffle is what makes the intake functional, and it costs between $2 and $4 per rafter bay at any Home Depot or Lowe's. A typical cabin with 16 rafter bays costs roughly $30 in materials. Installation is one person with a staple gun working for an afternoon. Let me walk you through how this is done. You start in the attic, at the eave. Move the existing insulation back from the exterior wall. You'll see the rafter bays, the spaces between the structural framing members that run from the peak down to the wall plate. At the bottom of each rafter bay is where the baffle goes. You slide the baffle channel into the bay with the curved side against the roof decking. The channel runs from the soffit mesh up into the open attic space, at least 12 inches, but further is better. You staple it in place against each rafter to hold it there. The channel needs to be at minimum 1 inch deep, preferably 2 inches, to allow airflow. Then, you push the insulation back toward the eave, up against the baffle. The baffle holds its shape. The air corridor stays open. 1 bay at a time, you move across the attic. The whole job in a small cabin, takes 2 to 3 hours. Here is the one mistake that undoes the whole repair. Mesh that is too fine. Many soffit panels, especially replacement panels bought at big box stores, come with insect mesh that is finer than the building code minimum of 1/8 inch. It looks like a good idea. No insects, no debris. But very fine mesh, anything below 1/8 inch, creates enough resistance to air movement that it functionally blocks the intake at high temperatures. You've opened the channel. You've installed the baffles. And the system is still being strangled by the mesh itself. The fix: replace the fine mesh panels with standard perforated panels rated at 1/8 inch minimum mesh size. You can verify this on the panel spec sheet or by looking at the hole size against a ruler. This is the detail that doesn't appear on any product label. It doesn't come up in the installation instructions. It only shows up in the result. When the attic still runs hot after you've done everything else right, what does this actually change? In typical conditions, a midsummer afternoon at 95 degrees Fahrenheit outside, standard roof pitch, reasonable ridge vent, a properly functioning soffit-plus-baffle intake brings the attic temperature down by 25 to 40 degrees Fahrenheit compared to a blocked system. 25 to 40 degrees. That is not a marginal improvement. That is the difference between an attic that stores heat all night and one that flushes it by 10 p.m. For the rooms below, the effect shows up as 8 to 12 degrees cooler at ceiling level by midnight. If your bedroom runs hot, that 12 degrees is the difference between sleeping and not sleeping. In dollar terms, the $30 in baffles, compared to a whole house fan at $300 to $700 installed, or a mini split at $2,000 to $4,000, handles a problem those systems were never designed to solve. Force cannot fix a blocked intake. You can move all the air in the house and still have a ceiling radiating heat at 1:30 in the morning if the attic above it never cooled down. One more thing worth knowing, especially if you are in a climate with cold winters. The baffle does double work. In winter, a cold attic needs ventilation too. Not to cool, but to stay dry. Warm, moist air from the living space below rises through the ceiling, enters the attic, and if the attic is sealed tight and cold, it condenses on the roof decking. That moisture, over a winter or two, produces mold, rot, and structural degradation. The same intake plus exhaust system that cools your attic in July dries it in January. And there is a second winter function. In cold climates with snow on the roof, a poorly ventilated attic develops what is called an ice dam. Heat from the house rises into the attic, warms the roof decking, melts snow at the middle of the roof. That meltwater runs down toward the eave, where the roof is colder because there's no heat loss from below, and refreezes. The ice backs up under the shingles. Water finds the gaps. It enters the wall. It enters the ceiling. The baffle prevents this by keeping the rafter bay air flushed and cold so the roof decking stays at a uniform temperature from peak to eave. One $30 fix. 4 functions. Year-round. The soffit looked like trim. It looked like the edge of the roof, finishing detail, aesthetic closure, the last piece before the gutter. Nobody told you it was a valve. Nobody told you the whole breathing system of your attic depends on what's happening behind that painted strip. And because nobody told you, it got sealed. By paint. By insulation. By a solid panel. By a well-meaning crew who was thinking about looks, not airflow. The ridge vent kept working. The fan kept running. The insulation kept thickening. And the attic kept cooking. The fix was always there. You just couldn't see it.